Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Sorry about that delay coming in. My name is Jonathan Friedland. You all know why you're here, which is to hear one of the foremost public intellectuals of our age. His first book, Sapiens, sold 25 million copies, was on the Sunday Times bestsellers list here in this country for 96 consecutive weeks. Overall, he has sold 45 million books in 65 languages. He is now a fellow of the University of Cambridge. He remains a lecturer in the Department of History at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. As I say, one of the great minds of our age. A warm welcome, please, for Yuval Noah Harari. It's very good to be together. We've got a lot to talk about, including centrally your new book, Nexus, the history of how the human race has handled information, with a very radical set of thoughts about artificial intelligence. We're going to do all of that. But first of all, I want to ask you about this and the phenomenon of this kind of thing. 20 years ago, you were an academic historian plowing away at medieval military history, writing monographs that might have been read by perhaps 120 or so people on a good day. Now you are somebody who can pack out a venue like this. There were lines around the block to hear you. There are audiences like this for you all over the world. What is that like? What does that do for how you write, for how you think, for being you?
It's a bit strange and unexpected, but I think it testifies to the power of history, that it's, I think, more relevant than ever. For me, history is not the study of the past. Even when I studied medieval military history, I didn't think that history is about remembering kings and battles from 1,000 years ago that most people don't care about. History is the study of change, of how things change. And therefore also it's about the present and the future. And we are now at a moment of greater change than at any previous time in history, which is why history is more relevant than ever.
So let's talk about the history that you chart in this new book. Just as a starting point of the focus on information. Very often I think people are tempted to think that information is something secondary. So you think that, there's the war and then there's the information war, and people treat it as if it's a kind of mediated second order thing. There's actual life and then there's talking about life, But you write here that information is actually the basic building block of reality, that it's an essential human thing. Just explain to us as a starting point why information is so important.
I mean, almost everything we do is based on cooperating with a very large number of other people, most of them complete strangers. I mean, we can know a couple of dozen people, maybe 100, 200, but most of the people we cooperate with are strangers. And you talk about war, so armies are networks of thousands and sometimes millions of people. What holds an army together? If you think about an economic system, so the food we eat is often grown by complete strangers who live on the other side of the planet. So what connects them to us? And wherever you look at churches, at cultural institutions, the connections that hold the network together is information. So it's things like orders or taxes or mythologies or money. If you think, for instance, about something like the United States, what is still holding the United States together when Republicans and Democrats cannot agree almost about anything? So maybe the last story that still holds the country together is the story of the dollar. The last thing they still agree about is the value of $1. And even this is under attack because you have the cryptocurrency people who want to dismantle. And just imagine what happens if suddenly each party has its own currency. And they go to the grocery store, and if it's a person from a different party, no, I don't accept that. So
red dollars and blue dollars as well.
Or bitcoins and whatever. And the power of these information networks is immense. They are now the most important thing on the planet. And the key thing to understand about it all is that the information doesn't have to be true. You know, if you think about the dollar, it's not describing anything in reality. You cannot ask, is the dollar true or false? No, it creates something new in reality. Maybe the best example is music. That you think about how music connects people, whether it's people in church singing a hymn together, whether it's soldiers marching together to the beat of a drum, maybe it's people going to a club, dancing together, and the music connects them. And the thing about music, you know, with all the talk about fake news, there is no such thing as fake music. There is a lot of bad music, but there is just no such thing as fake music. Music as information, it always creates connections. And when we get to talk about AI later, so lots of people hope, fantasize that AI will tell us the truth about the world. It will not. It will just create a new world, much more complicated, much more difficult to understand than the world we know today.
Just because you mentioned music, and I'm going to just jump ahead to AI and then we'll go back again, but because you planted music that's composed by AI, like art that's generated by AI, you said there's no such thing as fake music. Is a symphony written by AI real or fake?
Is it completely real? I mean, you can say I don't like it. You can say it also about many pieces of music composed by human beings. But certainly in terms of the vibrations in the air, it's real.
Yeah.
And also in terms, there is a huge discussion, maybe we have it later, about what is art and what is creativity. But a lot of people think that the purpose of art and of creativity is to create some emotional impact on people. And here, music created by AI can have an immense emotional impact on people. It can play on our emotional keyboard just like human-made music.
So the subtitle of the book, A Brief History of Information Networks from the Stone Age to AI. I think a lot of people intuitively will look at that and assume that's a story of progress, of things getting better. That the human race moves from the discovery of writing through to, jumping a bit, printing, to the newspaper, and at each point our abilities get better, greater, that it's a story of steady advance, and perhaps we'll come on to AI, whether that's the combination. But that notion of an upward curve, you say that's not, I think you call it naive, and you say it's not quite right. Just explain to us why it doesn't quite work out like that.
Well, the basic question of the book of Nexus is, if humans are so smart, why are we so stupid? I mean, we're obviously in many ways the smartest, the wisest animals on this planet. We've reached the moon, we've split the atom, we know how to read and also write the code of life, DNA. And yet we are on the verge of destroying ourselves and much of the ecological system, not just through one method. We have now an entire menu of ways to destroy ourselves. And we are aware of it, and we are still in many ways rushing headlong towards the cliff top. And why is it? And this is a question that bothered humans throughout history, because humans had this tendency for self-destructive activities, not just today, but throughout history. And a lot of mythologies and theologies, they claim that there is something wrong in human nature. There is some deep flaw in us as entities, as beings, which causes us to be self-destructive, to be evil. And only an outside force can come and save us. And I think this is wrong. The problem is not in our nature, the problem is in our information. Most people are good, but if you give good people bad information, they make bad decisions. They make self-destructive decisions. And then the question becomes, so why isn't information getting better? And
just give us an example of people making bad decisions because of bad information rather than them being inherently bad. Give us an example.
If you look, for instance, at the examples of mass delusion, mass psychosis in the 20th century, things like Nazi Germany, things like the Stalinist regime in the Soviet Union. So when you actually go and look at the documents and read in the archives and interview people who are still alive, most of the people who voted for Hitler and who supported him were not evil people. This is one of the big misconceptions about Nazism and about many of the, or you look at previous terrible things in history, whether it's the Inquisition or the Crusades, people, very few people you can say they are evil people. In most cases, people think they are doing good things. Even the inquisitors or the witch hunters who burn people at the stake, they think that they are actually saving their souls from burning for eternity in hell, or the souls of other people who might be influenced by these bad ideas. If I let this heretic go on living and spreading this heresy, more people will lose the opportunity to go to heaven and instead will have to spend eternity in the flames of hell. So by burning this person, this is actually an act of love. And people, at least some people, seriously believed it.
And so your point there is that their failing is not a moral one. It's that they've been fed bad information to believe that the heretic will be spared torments for eternity or whatever the...
If you accept their basic premises, if you accept their view of the world, then yes, what they are doing suddenly not only makes sense, it looks like a good deed. And if you think that the Jews are going to destroy the world, so destroying them suddenly looks like a good deed.
So the problem is the bad information that led them to those wrong beliefs, wrong-headed beliefs.
The essential problem is ignorance and not evil. And then the question is, so how can people, after thousands of years of progress, and after, again, we invented writing and the printing press and radio, and we flooded the world with information, with so much information, how can people still be so ignorant? And the key misconception here is that information just isn't knowledge. Most information is junk. We now have the most sophisticated information technology in history, and people are losing the ability to hold a rational conversation. I was just alluding earlier to the United States, but you see the same thing all over the world. So this very naive idea, we'll just invent more powerful information technology, we'll just have more information, this will necessarily lead to a rise in knowledge and rationality and wisdom and communication. Again and again through history, we were given very good lessons that it doesn't work like that. And the key reason is that the truth is a very small subset of the information in the world. You have a lot of information, again, like music, which the question of truth never arises with regard to music. Even information that tries to tell you something about the world, most of it is not true. And the reason should be obvious. The truth is costly. If you want to write a truthful account of anything, of battles in the Middle Ages, or of what is happening right now in American politics, you need to invest a lot of time and effort and money to gather evidence, to analyze it, to tell the difference, what is reliable, what is unreliable. It's very costly to produce a truthful account. In contrast, fiction, fantasy, lie, it's very cheap. You just write anything you want. No need of fact-checking, no need of research. Similarly, the truth is often very complicated because reality is complicated. Like you want to know the truth about the physical structure of the world, it's very complicated. or about what causes epidemics. Very complicated. Fiction can be made as simple as you would like it to be, and people usually prefer simple stories. They are easier, and the final thing is that the truth is often painful and unattractive. From the level of an individual that you need to go to therapy for years to realize the pain that maybe you have caused loved ones in your life, or the pain you caused yourself. Not easy to acknowledge this truth, all the way to the level of entire nations and cultures and religions that sometimes have not skeletons, but entire cemeteries in the closet that they don't want to acknowledge. And whereas the truth is not just costly, but also complicated and painful, fiction can be made as appealing, as attractive, as flattering, as simple as you would like it to be. So in a completely kind of free market of information, the truth is bound to sink to the bottom, not to rise to the top. We need to give it help.
And we've seen this in the world of social media and other on the internet, the way that and there was a study in Scientific American, I think, that charted this, that a lie goes viral and is spread virally 6 times faster than the truth, that it is just more shareable, more viral. And you've explained partly why that would be. And it matters because you write that these stories are the glue that binds societies, whole societies together. Yeah, and the false ones are better at being that glue than the true ones.
They are just cheaper and also more attractive. You know, if you think, for instance, about producing an atom bomb. You want to produce an atom bomb. So you need to know some facts. I mean, it should be very, very clear. No large network, no information network, economic, military, cultural, it cannot function with zero truth. It needs to know some truth about the world. If you want to produce an atom bomb, you need to know some facts of physics. Otherwise, the bomb will not explode. But the thing about human networks is that they need 2 things. They need to know some truth about the world, but they also need to preserve order among a very large number of strangers. Again, if you want to produce an atom bomb, it's not enough that you have one physicist that knows the facts of physics. You also need thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people. You need engineers, you need builders to build the reactor, you need miners to mine the uranium somewhere, you need farmers to grow rice and wheat. So all these engineers and physicists and whatever will have something to eat. So how do you get hundreds of thousands of people to work on a nuclear program? If you just tell them the facts of physics, listen, E = mc squared, so what? This is not a motivation for anybody to work on this. You need a better story. And the easiest stories are mythological stories, are fantasies. And the thing that often people who work in science or work on these technological developments don't understand is that in almost all cases, the people who know the facts of physics and biology and history, they get their orders from experts in mythology and theology. This basic imbalance is what we see again and again through history.